This is Tuesday, and this is the third hour of the Dennis Prager Show on Tuesday. Ergo, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Ultimate Issues Hour. This is a really important hour because the ultimate issues are the wisdom issues. Got a lot of experts with no wisdom. That means that we have a lot of people who can read a map really, really well and tell you exactly what street and what avenue you're standing on. But they have no idea where you should go. That is the 90% of experts are wisdom free, but we confuse knowledge with wisdom. You know what? I'm going to do an Ultimate Issues Hour on that. Let's do that. The difference between knowledge and wisdom and experts and the issue of experts. Experts have been wrong on almost every major issue of my life. Now, why would that be? Because they didn't listen to the Ultimate Issues Hour. So, hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. Welcome. I'm going to share with you a very personal, maybe that's not the best way to put it, personal. Personally, I think it's something private in my life. It's not private, but it's about this person, in that sense of personal. My whole life, I have said my life is dedicated to bringing people to ethical monotheism. One God who demands that we be good people and has one standard of good and evil. One God, one standard. Okay? And I obviously still believe that. However, I finally have come to realize that is not the best way for me to effectively put what it is I most want to bring people to. And I wish I had thought about this, or done this, I should say. I'm thinking about what I'm about to say my whole life, but I wish that I had said it from the beginning. I think I would have been a lot more effective as I might have been, and only God knows whether or not I've been, or how much. But I should have said, and I would like everyone listening to ultimately say, we want to bring humanity to the Ten Commandments. And if it weren't for my writing my commentary on the first 5 books, the Torah, the Rational Bible, it's called, this immersion made me realize that's what it's all about. If you're a Jew or a Christian, what happened when God took the Israelites out of Egypt? What did he take them out for? Did he take them out in order to no longer be slaves? Well, the answer is yes and no. Obviously, they were no longer slaves. But why did he take this group out of slavery? Every group in the world had slaves. Was either a slave owning or enslaved. All over the world. Why did God take the Israelites out of bondage? Answer, to bring them to Mount Sinai. The purpose of the Exodus was the receiving of the Ten Commandments. That is why, very few of you will know this, but some will, there is a law in the Bible, in the first 5 books where all the laws are, that you must count every day between Passover and Pentecost, Shavuot in Hebrew, the holiday of the receiving of the Ten Commandments. They must be connected. Liberation without 10 commandments is chaos. It's useless. The point of the liberation was getting the 10 Commandments. And when I speak on it, and I spoke on the 10 Commandments and the West in Romania last summer, this previous one to this, my summary of the 10 Commandments book is in Romanian. People hearing this, it resonates. That's what we need. The 10 Commandments. That is what I need. That is what you need. You can have a whole group of ancillary beliefs. Obviously, Christians have the deepest belief in Christ and the Trinity. I get it. And traditional Judaism has a tremendous belief in halacha and Jewish law. I get it. But the key? You know what was kept in the Holy of Holies? The 10 Commandments. That's the holiest thing in the world, the 10 Commandments. That Google has put 5 of the 10 Commandments videos on the restricted list is as symbolic a statement of the battle, the ideological battle in the West today as I can imagine. You should read the comments on the internet. After all, how many views does the 10 Commandments have? All the commandments, 10 million? Well over 20 million? Okay, over 20 million views. That's a lot of the videos on 10 Commandments at Prager. You should all watch them. You should have your kids watch them, grandkids watch them, your uncle watch them. Why would they be restricted? It's either the 10 Commandments or the anti-10 Commandments world in which we live. There's one, I'll give you one in particular, that is truly upsetting to the elites of the day. Honor your father and mother. You don't honor your father and mother, you honor the state. The state doesn't honor father and mother. Father and mother are a nuisance. That's why I'm opposed to free lunches and free breakfast at school. It says your parents are unimportant. They don't even have to feed you. The state will feed you. Guys have children taken away from them because they won't tell their 5-year-old boy, yeah, you really are a girl. In Canada and the United States. What was it, Canada, that case? It was an astonishing case. He acts as a boy when he's with his dad and acts like a girl when he's with the mother. And the threatening with removing the child permanently from him. The knocking out of parental authority is huge. It is huge. I'll do another one on honor your father and mother. I have a point that should be noted. There are 2 tablets in the 5 Commandments. Every one of you has seen you've seen a model of the 10 Commandments with 2 tablets, right? One on the right, one on the left. On the right are the first 5 because Hebrew goes from right to left, and on the left is the second 5. Although in English, how do they do it in English? In English, how do they do the first 5 on the left tablet? I'm curious. Yeah? All right, so fine. It doesn't matter. The tablet with the second 5 is about how we treat our fellow human being, right? Do not steal, do not covet, do not bear false witness. But honor your father and mother is on the tablet with the stuff with regard to God. You don't honor your parents. You don't have parental authority. You won't have divine authority. 1-8-PRAGER-776, the 10 Commandments.
The Dennis Prager Show.
You should come back home
Hello, everybody. This is the Ultimate Issues Hour on the Dennis Prager Show. Every Tuesday, the third hour. I can summarize better than ever before in my life what I believe my mission in life is. I always said, since I was 20, ethical monotheism. Bring people to the one God with the one ethical standard who demands that we be good. And I still believe that. But it's so vague that it's not effective. It certainly wasn't a great pickup line. I'll never forget a single guy in my 20s. Met an attractive girl. I don't know where it was. And I thought I was making some headway. And she said, what do you do? Well, I write and I lecture. Which was true. I never made up stuff. Which I thought was impressive sounding for whatever age I was. I said, oh, really? On what? I said, ethical monotheism. And that was pretty much the end of that budding relationship. I once told somebody on an airplane I lectured on monotheism, and then she started talking to me as an older lady, started talking to me about rheumatism. I should have realized then this was not the effective way to sell my product. And I'm pretty effective at selling my product, but this is the truest is I want people to come to the Ten Commandments. That's clear. A lot of people oppose it. I mean, dramatically. But that's what it's about. That's why it was the Holy of Holies. That was the purpose of the Exodus, get the Ten Commandments. I think that both Judaism and Christianity have not emphasized the Ten Commandments enough. And it's an interesting question. I raised this. I'll raise it again. It's very interesting. Did I raise it on the Ultimate Issues Hour? Are Christians obligated to the Sabbath commandment? Oh, we have to do that. I'm going to raise that because I've asked Christians, clergy, and lay people for decades, is a Christian obligated to the Sabbath commandment? And 50% have said yes and 50% have said no. But then it's really interesting. That means that for many Christians, there are 9 commandments. I think the Sabbath is absolutely up there. If everybody observed the Sabbath, who was I just? Oh yeah, I heard the Fox and Friends. I was watching Fox and Friends last week. I was watching, a replay, as it were, and the woman on the Fox and Friends. There are two men and a woman, and she's a religious Christian. And she was talking about her either mother or grandmother, I don't recall, and how she wouldn't, do anything regular, as it were, on a Sunday. It really was a Sabbath day, a holy day. And not only just go to church, but, what did she say? I remember she wouldn't play cards. She wouldn't, I don't know if she watched television or not. But it was a day. It was an elevated day. That loss in America, I actually often think if everybody had a Sabbath, there would be almost no crime. Take a day off in the week to sanctify a day, you're going to be a better human being. Because you're going to end up bonding more with family, bonding more with friends, with a community. And people with communities very rarely turn out to be murderers. It's lone wolves, as they say, even though they now say that wolves are not lone. But that's the term that we use. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243 776. That's what I want people to come to, the Ten Commandments. And that's what you should, if you are in sync with me, Christian or Jew, if you're in sync with me, or even non-denominational, just in sync with me on the God issue, 10 Commandments should be your answer. What do you stand for? The 10 Commandments. Then immediately somebody has something to agree or disagree with you on. 10 Commandments? Really? Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I deeply hope you will read my book. Somebody called in about a Catholic called in about the Rational Bible, but has hung up. But I would have loved to have taken your call. If you can get in, I'd like to talk to you. All right, Diana in Sarasota, Florida. Hi.
Hello, sir.
Hi there.
I want to tell you, I'm 59 years old, and you're the first wisdom I've ever had in my life. And I was listening to you say, honor your mother and father. Not all of us had the wonderful mother and father you had. I was so jealous the day I listened to your father's birthday show a couple of days ago. I thought, if only I had had wisdom in my life, I could have gone so much further. But I'm so thankful I have found you on conservative radio, and I can listen every day to your wisdom, and I grow so much, and I learn so much, and it's so meaningful in my life. I'm so appreciative for what you teach in Prager University, and I've only come to you in about the past 4 or 5 months, but I'm so thankful for the wisdom that you share.
You really touched me. You really touched me, and I want to explain why. God bless you. I'm so happy you found me, and I'm happy I found you. I want to tell you folks why this is such an important call and why she's right to cry. It is worse not to get wisdom than it is not to get love from your parents. How's that? You will do better. I believe you will do better in most cases in life. I'm not talking about parents who are abusive. That parents don't show love doesn't mean they're abusive. Obviously, I'm not talking about that. Anyway, wise people don't abuse their children, so it's an oxymoron. That is your job as a parent. It is more important that you convey wisdom to your children so that they can navigate life than it is that you love them up. I think you should do both. But that's how important I think it was. That's why she cried. And she was right too.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Hi, everybody. Ultimate Issues Hour. It's a big one. The ultimate issue is what I've devoted my life to, and I realize that I've mentioned this all through my life, but I never used it as the statement of what I want the world, how I see the world improving. I've said all my life I want to bring people to God and God-based ethics, ethical monotheism, and all of that is true, but it's not as helpful as the specific. I want the world to adopt the 10 Commandments. That's my vision of a good world. That is essentially all people need. And I make the case for them in my Rational Bible at great length, and I hope persuasively. And by the way, I have linguistic proof that my take on "do not take God's name in vain" is incorrectly translated. It's "do not carry God's name in vain." That's the Hebrew. That means do evil in God's name. It's the only sin God will not forgive in the 10 Commandments. Vast numbers of people think that it means that if you take God's name in vain means that you just say God's name for no reason that's holy. So, for example, oh my God, did I have a lousy day at the office? Then you violated the commandment. I always knew that was wrong because it makes God look stupid. He'll forgive murder, but he won't forgive saying, oh my God, I had a bad day at the office. I don't like when God is made to look stupid. Every religious person should think, hey, wait a minute, does that really make sense? But the religious people don't do that a lot. And part of the reason that there's so much alienation from religion is obviously because the left hates religion. It's its own religion. And pushes the radical push for secularism. But it's not the only reason. It's because religious people forgot, and I'm not blaming them. Religious people forgot how to make the case for religion. This goes for Jews and Christians equally. Big one. It's a big one. 1-8-Prager-776. Okay. Bob in Dallas. Hello, Bob.
Oh.
Hi.
I had a question. You mentioned a synopsis or a summary of your Rational Bible on Genesis in Romanian. We have a pastor in Romania to whom I have given an English copy. Where do I get the summary in Romanian? Where can I order that to give him one of those?
It's published in Bucharest. It's or I don't know if it's Bucharest, it might be Cluj, but it's published in Romania. Send me an email, and I will send you the group that translated it. That would be great. I would love him to have that. Yep, it's a good idea. Ultimate Issues Hour. And it's a big one for me and hopefully for you. I've always said my task of my life is to bring people to ethical monotheism. But I actually have come to realize, thanks to ironically, my own writing, The Rational Bible, what I really want people to do is observe the Ten Commandments. And it's so much more tangible. And that's how you should raise your kids. Just keep the Ten Commandments, kid. Tell me what is not included in the Ten Commandments, all right? What is missing? The last caller was mentioning how Christians observed it in the United States until about 50 years ago, as I mentioned earlier. Listen to this from David McCullough's award-winning biography of John Adams. The day was Wednesday, January 24th, 1776. The temperature, according to records kept by Adams' former professor of science at Harvard, John Winthrop, was in the low 20s. At the least, the trip would take 2 weeks, given the condition of the roads and Adams' reluctance to travel on the Sabbath. How do you like that? Yeah. I want to thank Richard Samuelson, who just sent me that. Telling you, I have the greatest research body of researchers in the world. You. That was a big deal. Greg in Bradenton, Florida. Hello, Greg. Thank you for calling.
Oh, Mr. Prager.
Hi.
I was wondering if you could tell me how you feel in general, not specifics, but in general, how Judeo-Christian values differ from, say, Buddhist values or Hindu values. To me, it seems like most of the denominations have the same values.
It's a very good question, and I'm better equipped to answer you with regard to Buddhism, which I did study, than I am Hinduism, although Buddhism came from Hinduism. Well, a lot of people don't know that. But anyway, first of all, obviously, and I'm not saying this as a negative, I'm just answering you as objectively as I can, there's no God in Buddhism to tell you what to do.
But that doesn't change their values. That just
it does.
There's nobody telling you what to do.
Well, okay, it's a very good question. So at the very least, that's fair. You had a fair objection to what I said. So I would counter that it's a difference in methodology that you would have to acknowledge. You don't meditate your way to values or contemplate or your way to values in the Judeo-Christian tradition. You obey a God who has commandments. That is not the case in Buddhism. You would agree to that, I assume.
I would agree that the methods are different. Yes.
Right. Well, I'll tell you a value that's different. Buddhism doesn't demand. It demands self-control and enlightenment and a lot of wonderful things. I've actually been affected by Buddhism, but it doesn't make a demand on improving the world. It makes a demand on accepting the world. So you're not likely to get Buddhist hospitals as much as you are Christian hospitals or Jewish hospitals. I remember interviewing a Buddhist monk, and I said to him, "What is the ideal reaction? You're a monk, so you don't have children. You don't have a wife. Do you have a sibling?" He said, "Yes, I have a brother. Do you love him?" "I love him." "If your brother died suddenly, what would the ideal reaction be as a Buddhist?" He said, "The ideal reaction would be that I would have no emotional reaction to it, because that's just the order of life is that things live and things die." I remember when I studied Buddhism under Trevor Ling, who wrote fantastic books on religion in England when I was in college. And he said one day, the Buddhist answer to suffering and pain is to have, is that all, the view is that all pain and suffering come from desires and expectations that are not fulfilled. And that changed my life. I adopted the view of not having expectations, which is a big part of my view on happiness. However, the desires part is a huge difference between Buddhist values and Western values. We have great desires, not just the desire for pleasure. We have a great desire to conquer cancer. That is not a great Buddhist desire.
Okay, well, I suppose maybe it's not exactly splitting hairs, but I think of, for instance, the honor your mother and your father. And I think of Buddhism as being mostly an Asian religion. And I can think of no culture that honor their elderly and their parents and grandparents more than Asian.
Right. I think you did pick a value that we share, but you asked me what we don't share, and that's what I answered. Thank you. Appreciate your call very much. And let's see here. Oh, the music. All right. Take your calls when we come back. You want to raise good kids? Tell them to observe the 10 Commandments. But you have to know what they say. You have to really understand them. And two are completely misunderstood. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder. And it doesn't say do not take God's name in vain. It says do not carry God's name in vain. We'll be back.
The Dennis Prager Show.
All right, everybody. The Ultimate Issues Hour, final segment today. It's every Tuesday I do this. I have a much better and clearer way of saying what my goal in life has been and is, and what ours ought to be, and that is to bring the world to the 10 Commandments. Give the world the 10 Commandments to the world. It is, Judaism and Christianity have somewhat lost sight of that, even though they both, of course, honor it tremendously. But that's the issue. Although a lot of Jews and Christians would differ with me, I think. They would not say it's the primary. Anyway, fine. So even if it's your secondary, it's got to be the mission. It's my primary. That's what that'll solve the that will solve the problems of the world, the Ten Commandments. Okay, Natalie in Irvine, California. Thanks for calling, Natalie.
Thank you. Wow, I feel so honored to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm at the gym. I'm trying to catch my breath.
Oh, that's adorable. You're at the gym? Are you?
I listen to you at the gym every day.
You're working out and calling me?
Yes.
I am. That's really impressive. Are you on the treadmill as we speak?
I'm on the stepper, on the Stairmaster.
Oh, my God, you are? That's the worst.
Yeah. I know. I hate it.
Okay, go ahead.
You give me motivation and power to continue my workout, so thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
You know, the Ten Commandments, following them, I agree with you. It will bring a lot of light upon everyone and all the nations and all the people and understanding and wisdom. But putting that aside, let's say, you know, we follow the Ten Commandments. So what about all of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laws that Jews have to follow that are derived, I guess, from the Torah, that they have to follow in order to be better people and do better and get closer to God? Whereas a lot of people in my generation are being very, very strayed away from religion because there are way too many rules, way too many regulations, way too many laws that we can't follow.
That's right. I happen to agree with you. There are too many laws. I don't think the Torah has too many laws, and that's why I write my Rational Bible to explain it to everybody of every faith. But I think there are too many laws. That's correct. I think it's an issue. All right, my friends, it's been the Ultimate Issues Hour on the Dennis Prager Show. If you like this stuff, just know I conduct High Holy Day services. Send me an email through DennisPrager.com for information.
If you were designing a universe for life, I suspect you might design it differently. There is no evidence of design or purpose to our universe.
I'm a speck, on a speck, orbiting a speck, amongst all other specks, in the middle of specklessness. I am not, I suck!
No design, no purpose.
I'm a speck in the middle of specklessness.
Are we really just insignificant specks in an accidental universe? Do we really just suck?
I suck!
Those are some dramatic claims, but not everyone thinks that way. In fact, some very distinguished scientists disagree. Freeman Dyson, a world-renowned physicist and mathematician, says, and I quote, "The more I examine the universe and study the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe in some sense must have known that we were coming. So maybe it's not an accident that Earth is habitable." We caught up with physicist Bijan Namadi, who was a senior engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab for over 16 years.
What we've discovered in the last few decades is that the properties of the universe in general and our planet in particular are fine-tuned, not just for our survival, but actually for our thriving, our benefit.
So Earth is not just habitable, it's better than that. It's hospitable. It's like this. Imagine you're a space explorer and you land on a distant planet. There's no water, no oxygen, and it's 300 degrees below zero. You're screwed. But then off in the distance you see a structure, and the closer you get, the more it looks like a house. When you open the door, you find it's been filled with warm, breathable air. You take off your spacesuit and find a faucet with drinkable water, and a refrigerator stocked with healthy and delicious food. What's your first thought? The house and everything in it was the product of a mindless natural process? Or that it was designed to take care of you, to meet your needs, and that someone prepared it as a home for human beings, like you? Our planet, Earth, is that home.
Our planet is a terrestrial planet. It has water and carbon, both necessary for life. It has an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere in just the right proportion for life to thrive. We have plate tectonics to circulate minerals. We have a magnetosphere that protects us from harmful radiation. Our moon stabilizes our axial tilt, giving us a stable climate. And we have gas giant planets, particularly Jupiter, cleaning up the solar system from comets and asteroids that could harm us. And we are located in the habitable zone of a very stable, energetic star, which itself is located in the habitable zone of a metal-rich, mature galaxy. So the Earth is apparently exceedingly rare.
There is no design or purpose to our universe.
Still stuck on that? Even though the Earth meets exactly the conditions needed to sustain life? Well, what about our universe and the precise settings of its physical laws that keep things in order? What they call fine-tuning. Cosmological physicist Frank Tipler explains.
Fine-tuning in physics refers to the observed fact, that were we to modify the constants of nature just slightly, life would never appear in this universe.
Imagine you have a universe app where you can mess with the universal laws of physics from the beginning of time. Starting with gravity, too strong and the stars would be unstable and deadly to life. Too weak and the stars would struggle to create carbon and oxygen. Again, no life. We got Stephen Meyer, who holds a PhD from Cambridge, to break it down.
The force of gravity is not too strong, not too weak. The speed of light, not too fast, not too slow. The ratios of these fundamental forces are delicately balanced. It's the just right universe that makes life possible.
So it's got to be exact. But materialists say we just got lucky with gravity. Now, let's set our universe app to random and tap the button. What are the chances that the app will luck onto a gravity setting that just happens to allow life to emerge? Scientists have crunched the numbers, and the answer? Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say 1 out of 1,000,000.
Actually, for gravity, it's worse. Worse than 1 chance in 1 billion, times 1 trillion, times 1 trillion.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah! Yeah! We all love rooting for long shots, but here's the thing. It's not just gravity. There are many other physical laws that also have to be just so for life to emerge in the universe. And some of them are even more fine-tuned, even more unlikely than gravity. Without fine-tuning, our universe would be a horror story even Stephen King couldn't imagine.
The very construction of the world and the fact that we seem to be the only blue-populated planet in the universe, it makes you have to believe that if we happened by accident, it would make winning the lottery look like flipping a coin. So I have a tendency to believe in intelligent design.
Nobel Prize-winning physicist Charles Townes seemed to agree by stating, and I quote, "Intelligent design, as one sees it from a scientific point of view, seems to be quite real. This is a very special universe. It's remarkable that it came out just this way." But of course, materialist scientists claim they have a better answer.
There's an obvious and easy naturalistic explanation in the form of the cosmological multiverse.
The multiverse acknowledges that the conditions necessary to make life in this universe are incredibly improbable. But it posits the existence of multiple billions of other universes, and we just happen to be in that lucky universe.
Keep in mind that there's no evidence that these other universes actually exist.
There are no experimentally tested laws of physics telling us that these other universes exist. No evidence for leprechauns, no evidence for unicorns, no evidence for the existence of other universes with different values of these fundamental constants.
And there's still another problem with the multiverse explanation.
The new mechanisms that have been proposed as possible ways of generating new universes themselves require fine-tuning. So in order to explain the fine-tuning, you have to posit prior universe-generating mechanisms that themselves require fine-tuning.
And so, in the end, you're left right where you started.
The many aspects of nature that have been fine-tuned for life are overwhelming. All of this evidence shows you are not insignificant. You are not an accident. And you don't suck. someone had you in mind. Someone had us all in mind. We are not materialists. We see the human soul. We experience love. We live with purpose. We fight for justice. We are the quiet majority, and we will be quiet no longer.
Back in 2005, I was living the dream. Oh my gosh, I was living in New York City, and a musical that I'd written with my friend, The Ark, was going to be off Broadway. And I thought, this is my destiny. I could just see my future unfolding before me. What I didn't realize is that whatever is written in the stars is not as powerful as what's written in the New York Times. And we got crucified. And it didn't last very long. It broke my heart. I was crushed. And I think I know something about heartache. And then a year goes by, and I find out what heartache's really about. My son comes out and says, Dad, I can't do it anymore. I'm gay. And I've tried to do everything you said. Went on my mission, I was an Eagle Scout, and I don't know how to get through it. And the stuff that you have tried to tell me about this has not been helpful. Well, it broke my heart in a real heartbreaking way. And so I thought, well, I need some answers from heaven. So I started praying like I'd never prayed before. How do I help my son get through this? How do I hold my family together? I just begged God to talk to me. And it was the first time in my life that I felt like heaven was shut. It's shut down. I couldn't get past the ceiling. And I thought, well, this is a little challenge. Well, you think that for a week or two or a month or two. But 2 years, and you start asking yourself, wait a minute, what if I got it wrong? Not just church stuff or policy stuff. What if the issue is there really a God who hears my prayers? Does he know me? And is there something that I may have done that offended him so he won't talk to me? I mean, this is the stuff that really matters. Will I keep the promises when my heart feels nothing? We make all of our great promises in life when we're feeling great. When we fall in love, oh, I feel so great. I love you. I love you. When we feel the Spirit, oh, baptize me. I'm going to live righteously. What do we do when we feel nothing? And we fear that maybe nothing's coming. Well, that's where I was. So I got on my knees, and I'd prayed before a lot, and I'd had prayers I believed were answered, but it'd been so long. And I said, I don't know if you're hearing this. I'm going to quit whining and moaning about this. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust that there's a reason that I can't feel your presence. There's a reason that I feel so abandoned. I'm going to trust that you're smarter than I am, that you get this better than I do, and at some point, and I don't feel like it'll ever happen, but at some point, you'll communicate with me, and I'll feel your love, and I won't feel so lost. I hadn't given up hope, but I'd given up trying to make myself feel something or to say, what's wrong with me? After 9 years of this faith crisis, I had this extraordinary experience. I went into my study, I'm a songwriter, and for 10 days, it was like I got downloads of songs, just kind of almost out of the blue. Because I had been wondering, what's Jesus really like? Did I just borrow my idea of Jesus, or did I really have an understanding of what he was like? I realized that when I reviewed the 10 or 12 songs that had come during those 10 days, that my answer about who Jesus was and how he felt about me and how I was going to move forward came in songs. And that's when this revelation that kind of changed my life happened. That the Lord loved me so personally and so individually and so completely that he would send an answer that I would recognize could have only come from him, from his heart to mine. I don't know how else to describe it. I was overwhelmed with grace. And then I thought, why did this take 9 years. As I tried to process the story that I've been sharing with you, I started to make some notes. Were there times that Jesus was there and I didn't see him? Because I had decided in advance, I know how to get answers to my prayers. And they come in this box. This is how God answers prayers, like this. Every prayer he's ever answered for me came this way. Well, what if he was answering me outside the box? What if there were ways he was trying to give me hope and reassure me and talk to me, and it just went over my head because I couldn't see it? You know, you talk about being humbled, and I listed 25 things that had happened where the Lord was reaching out to me. It was a discovery of the fact that for 9 years, the Lord had not been punishing me by not talking to me. He was trying to teach me that even when I couldn't see it, His grace was trying to save me.
My whole life, I've kind of had an addiction to pornography, and I was embarrassed by it. I became really good at hiding what I was doing. There wasn't a whole lot of thought of that this was an addiction. I was thought, well, when I serve this mission for my church, that it'll go away, it'll stop then. When I get married, it'll stop. And the triggers just never stopped. The increase in what I needed never stopped. It went from just images to videos, from videos to chatting with people online, from chatting with people online to meeting people. I always said to myself that I could quit anytime. I rationalized everything I did. I was kind of withdrawing from life. I was losing my family. I was wrecking my marriage. Everything was centered around me. Eventually, I was found out, given up by one of the women I had an affair with. Initially, my wife's reaction was anger. She was very angry and hurt because she hadn't ever even thought that this was something that was going on. She was scared. She was afraid it was going to wreck her life and how it would affect the children. I just was convinced that my life was over. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing I could do. I was not sure that I wanted to go on. It was the worst day, and it was probably the best day as well because it was the start of my recovery. I went in and talked with the leader of my congregation, my bishop, and told him what my problem was and what had been going on. He began counseling me. He suggested that I see a professional counselor and talk with that person, and that my wife and I also see a counselor. The counselor suggested that I go to the pornography addiction workshop first, and they go through the science of addiction and of pornography addiction. And then she suggested when I finished that to go to the 12-step program and to start doing it regularly. She also suggested that my wife go to a similar program for spouses of addicts. It's nice to have somebody who knows my path and knows what I've gone through and can call me out. She knows the whole story. What are we working on now? What's the next step? How can you improve? What do you need to talk to your wife about? I read some talks about repentance and the atonement of Christ. I had been taught that stuff my whole life, but I really hadn't understood it, I don't think. I was angry, and I wanted him to just make it go away. I didn't want to have to do any work. I just wanted it to be solved. And I was mad at him, and I was mad at myself. I hadn't been able to see past my problems to see that Heavenly Father wanted to help me, but I had to be willing to trust Him, to take the step to turn my life over to Him. He's helped me to find solutions. They're hard, and on my own I couldn't do it. And He has blessed me to see that and to learn those things. Without that, I would have kind of been stuck where I was for the rest of my life. I have hope now. There are still times when it's difficult, when I feel down about who I am and what I've done, and I think that's normal. But I also feel like I can see a way out of where I have been and of what has happened and what I have done to myself and to my family. It's not an easy road that I see, but I think that Heavenly Father has set up a way for me to go forward.